Lieutenant Governor, First Gentleman, legislative leaders and members, justices and judges, my fellow Iowans. It's my honor and privilege to once again report on the condition of our great state from this chamber in our beautiful state capitol. We refer to this building as the People's House, and for good reason. This is the place where their government deals with their business. Everything that happens here begins and ends with them. And it's because of them, their energy and creativity, their resilience and goodness, that I can say, once again, the condition of our state is strong. So let's start with some national rankings. We're the #1 state for retirement and millennial home ownership, and the #1 state for fiscal responsibility for 3 years running. Second in cost of living, and third for opportunity. We're also #4 for healthcare and educational choice. And we've ranked the 6th best state overall, but always #1 in my mind. There really is so much to be proud of. We've reduced taxes, saving Iowans more than $24 billion over 10 years. No more tax on retirement income, no inheritance tax. And starting this month, Iowans get to keep even more of the money that they earn with a 3.8 flat tax, a far cry from 8.98% of 6 years ago. We've transformed the way our state interacts with citizens, businesses, and entrepreneurs, shrinking and aligning government so that our tax cuts are sustainable. We've consolidated agencies, eliminated 1,200 burdensome regulations, remade legacy systems, centralized programs, and leveraged technology. We took fragmented IT systems spread across 20 different agencies and consolidated them into one department. And for the first time ever, we have a single viewpoint into every IT operation within the executive branch. So last year, when the cybersecurity company CrowdStrike brought down IT systems across the world, Iowa's consolidated system was back online shortly after lunch, while other states and businesses were in the dark for days and even weeks. In just 18 months, our alignment and efficiency efforts have saved taxpayers $217 million, already surpassing our initial projection for the first 4 years. So it's not surprising that I like to say we were doing Doge before Doge was a thing. And to build on our success, I'm launching our own state Doge to find even greater savings and efficiencies in both state and local government. Because to pass meaningful property tax reform, we also need to be lean at the local level. I've asked Emily Schmidt, General Counsel of Sioux Cup Manufacturing, to lead this effort. The trajectory of our state is not just impressive, but inspiring. In just a few short years, we've turned our state into a national model for bold, get-it-done government, and we're not stopping. Emily, thank you for chairing this. Even though Iowa is on the right path, 2024 had its fair share of challenges, and there are still Iowans struggling today. That's why we're back, to keep working, to give every Iowan the opportunity to succeed, to earn a paycheck, care for their family and themselves, to ensure that every Iowan maintains the rights endowed by our Creator: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Of course, government is only a small piece of that. Every teacher, neighbor, coworker, friend, and every Iowan is called upon to encourage one another and build one another up. I witnessed so much of that this past year, and it was never more inspiring than when Iowans needed it most. We faced devastating tornadoes and historic flooding that left families, farms, businesses, schools, and communities reeling. To put it into perspective, Iowa was granted 3 presidential disaster declarations in just 2 months. I'll never forget the devastation and the heartbreak, but I also witnessed Iowans lifting each other up, volunteers clearing debris, residents comforting neighbors, and first responders and local officials working around the clock, many who had their own homes or businesses destroyed, yet they continued to put others first. In Spencer, brothers Aaron and Drew Hoeing left their home, drove 30 miles, and launched their boat into the submerged streets. They rescued dozens of people, many of whom had been stranded in their cars or on the roofs of their homes. In Rock Valley, Police Chief Warburton and his team, alongside an array of firefighters and other first responders, waded through chest-deep water and a dangerous current to carry children on their shoulders to safety. So many volunteers showed up from surrounding communities with their equipment that the residents affectionately referred to them as the Farmer Army. It's hard to imagine anything more Iowan. And I can tell you, that army shows up every time disaster strikes. We saw it in Greenfield after an EF4 tornado damaged numerous homes and claimed 4 precious lives. Just 2 months later, enough debris had been cleared that the city was able to host almost 20,000 RAGBRAI cyclists who donated more than $50,000 to help with recovery. Even younger Iowans got involved. 10-year-old Quinn Swart took it on herself to create bracelets and keychains, raising $8,000 for flood victims. As she put it, I heard what some of my friends were going through, and I wanted to find a way to make them smile. Quinn, we're all smiling now. We're joined tonight by some of the volunteers, state employees, emergency managers, first responders, and local leaders who stepped up in the face of adversity. You represent so many others across the state who demonstrated the strength, compassion, and determination that defines Iowa. Please join me in thanking these Iowans for their heroism and dedication. Thank you. I want to pause for a moment tonight to recognize two remarkable Iowans we lost last year who served our state with distinction. Former Secretary of Agriculture Bill Northey dedicated his life to farm families, rural communities, and the state he loved. He was a beloved husband, father, and grandpa. His loss deprives us not only of a servant leader like few others, but also a dear friend to so many. He is greatly missed. So too is former Congressman Jim Leach, who for 3 decades modeled how to combine elected office with civility, kindness, and grace. It's a timeless lesson, and we're grateful to have benefited from his example. Please join me in a moment of silence to remember these humble individuals. If you're like me, every legislative session begins with a strong sense of anticipation. After all, our positions of public trust mean we have the opportunity to make a difference in the lives of Iowans. And that starts with making sure every child has access to a quality education. Today, Iowa families have more options than ever before to choose a learning environment that best fits their child's needs. For 92% of families, that means enrolling their children in the public school where they live. And that's no surprise. We have great public schools and teachers, and we want to keep it that way. That's why we've invested more than $3.8 billion in our public schools last year, about 43% of our state budget. It's also why we made historic investments in our teachers, including the largest pay raise in our state's history. For families who want another option, we made that possible for every Iowan, regardless of income. This year, nearly 28,000 students are using education savings accounts, making it the 3rd largest program in the country. For so many of these families, this has brought genuine educational freedom. In addition to this, over 43,000 public school students, 9%, took advantage of open enrollment to attend a public school outside of their home district. Because what works for some families doesn't always fit within the lines that are drawn by government. And in the last 2 years, we've gone from 3 to 17 high-quality public charter schools, providing a variety of innovative, cost-free options that are focused on STEM, work-based learning, underserved children, and more. These schools and the stories coming out of them are inspiring. One student who enrolled in a construction program at Great Oaks Charter School in Des Moines said, quote, "It isn't just helping me finish school, it's helping me build my future." Next school year, just a few blocks from the Capitol, Des Moines Prep will emphasize hands-on learning and student empowerment for high schoolers. It's a great opportunity for kids to connect the worlds of school and work in a dynamic commercial hub. Then there's the story of Dikarian Harris, a student who felt frustrated until he enrolled in Empowering Excellence, a public charter school now in its first year in Cedar Rapids. Because of the help he's getting at his new school, he said, "I had the opportunity to rebuild confidence in education." Sarah Swayze is the school's founder, and she is a longtime civic leader and advocate, and Empowering Excellence is already expanding next year. It goes to show what's possible when a culture of innovation and work-based learning is allowed to take root and grow. Lives changed, futures brightened, hope regained. Both Sarah and Dikarian are here with us tonight. Please join me in recognizing them for what they've accomplished. Prioritizing students means setting the kind of high and rigorous expectations that bring out their very best. Take literacy. Last year, we passed important legislation that requires schools to create personalized plans for students who aren't reading proficiently at grade level. We also provided educators with no-cost training that's grounded in the science of reading. And we sent every first grader in the state a pack of literacy-enhancing books known as decodables to help parents reinforce reading skills at home. Now it's time to do the same with another foundational skill, math. Along with early childhood literacy, nothing is more predictive of future success, both in the classroom and the workforce, than the confidence that comes with math proficiency. I'm proposing a bill that will ensure children who are struggling in math are identified and receive the personalized help that they need. The bill will also strengthen math instruction by equipping our teachers with evidence-based professional development and providing high quality teacher preparation training. It's time that we return to teaching math the way we know it works. I just might be able to help some of our grandkids again. It wasn't a reality before that. When you ask educators about the obstacles they're facing in the classroom, smartphone distraction is consistently near the top of the list. According to a survey by Pew Research, more than 7 in 10 high school teachers say it's a major problem. 80% of Gen Z report using their phone at least 6 hours per day. It's unhealthy, and the results are as predictable as they are unacceptable. Lost sleep, lower productivity, more distractions, and increased anxiety. Many districts have already begun to address the problem. Some, like Hoover High in Des Moines, have ruled out the use of cell phones during instructional time. Others, like the Ottumwa Community School District, require that kids put their phones away for the entire school day. And a good case can be made for either policy or something in between. And I truly applaud the administrators, teachers, and parents coming together to find the right balance for their communities. What's no longer acceptable is doing nothing. That's why I'm proposing legislation that requires schools keep instructional time free from digital distractions at a minimum. Of course, there'll be common sense exceptions like during an emergency, but the evidence is in and it's time to act. Let's make sure the classroom is a place for learning, growth, and connection. Let's pass this bill and give students their best possible chance at success. I want to address another important topic about cell phones that we need to finally resolve, and that's hands-free driving. Cell phones are a distraction in the classroom. They're deadly on the highway. With us tonight is a family who understands that nightmare all too well. 2 years ago, Roland Taylor was killed by a distracted driver. Of the 9 minutes the driver was in his car that evening, he spent 7 on his phone. I met Roland's wife, Gwen, and daughters, Angie and Lisa, last summer. They shared with me that they don't want another family to go through what they've been through. So they are strong advocates for hands-free driving. For the sake of all our loved ones on the road, let's finally pass legislation that requires drivers to keep their eyes on the road and away from their phones. Childcare has been a longstanding priority of my administration. Over the last 4 years, we've increased childcare capacity by almost 27,000 slots. And to make the most of this new capacity, a stable workforce is critical. That's why 2 years ago, we created a pilot that provides free childcare to childcare workers. It's been successful at decreasing the staff turnover rate. Now that we know it works, let's make this program permanent. A new pilot program called Community Solutions Funds is also making progress. Working with the Iowa Women's Foundation, the state contributed $3 million to facilitate the creation of 9 regional community solutions funds to raise childcare wages without raising cost on families. These funds accept donations from businesses, philanthropists, and nonprofits, recruiting more Iowans to this profession. 4 years ago, Hamilton County's 4 childcare centers were sitting at or below 65% capacity, with providers starting at $8.50 an hour. Today, after starting a community solutions fund, staff have received a 36% raise, and 3 of the 4 centers are at 100% capacity, with total enrollment increasing by more than 100 children countywide. There's no reason this success can't be replicated across the state. To help do so, I'm pleased to announce that we're launching a statewide solutions fund to which individuals or businesses can donate to enhance childcare workforce wages and help take the regional funds to the next level. We're joined tonight by some of the officials who helped get Hamilton County's regional fund off the ground. Let's give them a hand for showing what's possible when community leaders come together to solve community problems. Community leaders have also come together to address another childcare challenge, the difficulty in coordinating transportation between childcare and preschool during the day. In some ways, it's a problem created by our own success. Iowa is ranked 5th in the country for 4-year-old preschool access, and our Shared Visions program is helping to extend hours and provide greater support for kids with risk factors. More than 2/3 of our 4-year-olds are enrolled in some form of preschool. That's almost double the rest of the country. But this can create problems for some working parents who struggle to shuttle their kids between preschool and childcare during the workday. Parents need a solution that meets the demands of their busy lives, one that allows their children to benefit from our successful preschool program and have access to childcare. It's about more than convenience. It's about offering our children the educational foundation they need while giving parents peace of mind that their children are cared for throughout the workday. I'm proposing to establish a continuum of care program that will provide 3-year grants for preschool programs and childcare providers that come together to integrate their services. The funds could be used to defray the cost of transportation to bring the children from school to childcare or vice versa. Or they could pay for a preschool teacher at a local childcare center or childcare staff at the local school. Under my proposal, the directors at Early Childhood Iowa will review and manage the grant awards. These advocates from across the state work passionately every day to make a difference in the lives of our young children and families, providing a critical connection between the state and local communities to help ensure that our kids thrive. I appreciate their unwavering commitment to our children, and I know they'll do a good job. So here's an example of what these grants could do. Center Point Urbana School District partners with a private child care center that operates right in the building. Parents can drop their children off as early as 6:30 in the morning. And when they're done with preschool, they walk back down the hall to the child care center, where they play until their parents arrive at 5:30. The child care director, Jennifer Litke, said she believes, quote, "The best solution for working families lies in a partnership between the public and private early childhood education communities. Partnerships like ours," she said, "have the potential of benefiting both school districts and child care programs around the state. This allows for greater accessibility to preschool while eliminating the transportation burden on working families, and it does all of this while protecting an already unstable childcare industry." Jennifer, along with Heidi McGonigal, who runs the preschool program, Superintendent John Elkin, and many of the local ECI directors are with us here tonight. Please recognize these individuals for their dedication. The well-being of working families in rural communities also depends on access to high-quality health care. While we have challenges, Iowa has a strong foundation to build on. We're ranked number one for lowest healthcare cost, with the fourth best healthcare system overall. We rank ninth for healthcare access, and when it comes to women's health, we rank 14th in the nation and have been named the 11th best state to have a baby. But we still need more medical professionals in every part of the state, including a greater variety of specialists. To accomplish this, I am proposing to consolidate our loan repayment programs and double our investment to $10 million while opening it to anyone who commits to practicing in rural Iowa for 5 years, even if they're trained elsewhere. We also know that doctors often decide to practice where they do their residency. We know, too, that Iowa doesn't have nearly enough residency slots, preventing many physicians from giving our state a chance. That's why I'm directing HHS to launch a program in partnership with Broadlawns and the University of Iowa to secure over $150 million in federal funds to create a projected 115 new residency slots each year at our 14 teaching hospitals. With a typical 3 to 4 year residency rotation, that would mean around 460 new physicians being trained right here in Iowa. That is a game changer for rural communities and our state. We also need more nurses, CNAs, and LPNs. And to facilitate that, I'm announcing $3 million in grants for employers to train and educate individuals in these areas. The program provides more flexibility for employers and will help fill in-demand health careers. We also need to review our Medicaid rate model to ensure that we're accounting for the unique needs of providers in different areas of our state. At my direction, HHS will be seeking federal approval to provide more Medicaid rate flexibility with the goal of incentivizing creative regional partnerships that can better support our healthcare providers and improve services. There are more immediate solutions that we can pursue to continue to support maternal care in Iowa. Today, Iowa reimburses hospitals and physicians at a single bundled rate, regardless of a pregnancy risk level. This rigid approach doesn't make sense for mothers or doctors, so I'm proposing legislation that would unbundle the rates and increase reimbursement to OBGYNs and primary care physicians for complex cases. We should also increase rates for certified nurse midwives and add doula services as a covered Medicaid benefit. These professionals also have an important role to play in supporting our mothers and children, and our rates should reflect that. An adverse health diagnosis can change everything in the blink of an eye. One moment you're playing with your kids or grandkids, planning family gatherings, and doing daily life. Then lightning strikes, and those everyday joys seem not just precious, but fragile. It puts things into perspective, and it reminds us of what matters most. Like so many others, this is a path that my own family has walked. More than a year ago, after Kevin received a lung cancer diagnosis, I'm happy to share that the cancer remains in remission and he continues to do well. Kevin? Well, you clap now, but can I still say some nice things about Kevin? Kevin, you're the rock of our family, a wonderful first gentleman, and the girls and I thank God every single day for you. There's another leader in this chamber who has absorbed the shock of a cancer diagnosis. Senator Majority Leader Whitfer has been fighting a private battle while continuing to serve his state. Jack, your colleagues, friends, and constituents are inspired by your quiet fortitude despite the grueling pressure of treatment. We're pulling and praying for you, Rachel, and the kids every step of the way. Thank you for your powerful example of service, leadership, and grace. Every case of cancer is a tragedy, and I'm concerned by the data showing that these tragedies disproportionately affect Iowans. Our state has ranked second for new cancer cases 2 years running, and we're one of just 2 states with rising rates. That's the what of this problem. The why and the how are where things get tricky. According to the Iowa Cancer Registry, we're in the top 5 states for binge drinking. We're also among the top for alcohol-related cancers, with the highest incidence in the Midwest. This month, the Surgeon General warned that alcohol is known as a carcinogen. Again, none of this is conclusive. There's a lot we still don't know, and multiple factors are likely at play. We shouldn't jump to conclusions, but we need to get to the bottom of this. Tonight, I'm announcing a new partnership between Iowa HHS and the University of Iowa to establish a dedicated team of epidemiologists to research the behavioral, genetic, and environmental factors that might be playing a role. And I'm asking the legislature to appropriate $1 million to get their work started. Iowans don't need more speculation. They need answers. Kevin and I both grew up in rural Iowa and lived there for most of our lives. It's where I learned not just the value of a dollar, but also the work that earns it. Whether on the farm or in the factory, my dad and grandpa viewed their work as an opportunity and a privilege. Kevin and I have tried to carry that example and pass it on to our children. I know so many of you do the same. In our biggest cities and smallest towns, we Iowans are raised to appreciate hard work and the sense of purpose it provides. That's why it's always been a priority of mine to make sure that our government programs reflect a culture of work. From promoting training programs to turning our unemployment system into a reemployment system, we've succeeded in making sure that more Iowans wake up in the morning with a sense of purpose. Some of these efforts have been hampered by a federal government that often pays people to stay home. But starting next week, we'll have a president who understands the importance of work. So I'm proposing that Iowa apply for a federal waiver to institute work requirements for able-bodied adults on Medicaid. In other words, if you can work, you should. For the men and women who are receiving these government payments, getting back to work can be a lifeline to stability and self-sufficiency. I also want to build on the success of our unemployment reforms. When Iowans lose their jobs, the Department of Workforce Development doesn't just hand out money. They help them get back to work. Because of that, Iowans are finding new jobs on average in just 9 weeks. Nationally, I want you to know that number is closer to 23 weeks. This is what success looks like. As a result, our unemployment trust fund is full. In fact, we have more than we need. Our nearly $2 billion trust fund is the 9th highest in the country, even though we're 32nd for population. Clearly, we're over-collecting. To make it worse, we apply our unemployment tax to more wages than any other state in our region. Iowa taxes up to $38,000 in wages. Illinois only taxes $13,000. South Dakota is at $15,000, and Wisconsin is at $14,000. Only Minnesota taxes business more. We need to stop punishing our employers by requiring them to pay more tax than necessary. Instead, employers should keep and reinvest this money into their businesses, their workers, and their communities. That's why I'm again proposing that we reduce the unemployment insurance payments that employers make by half. This will result in nearly $1 billion in savings, which will flow through businesses of all sizes to communities across our state. Let's not wait another year. It's time to get this done. Iowa has always benefited from looking forward to anticipating future needs and getting ahead of the curve. Energy is a clear example. Over the last 2 decades, we've made changes that turned Iowa into an energy leader. The results speak for themselves. We're a leader in renewable energy and biofuels. We rank in the top 10 for grid reliability. And we've done all this while maintaining some of the lowest electricity prices in the country. That's a plus for Iowans and a big recruitment tool for economic development. But as the world becomes more dependent on technology and as AI becomes more prevalent, energy demand is dramatically increasing. So we need to look forward again and to make sure that our grid remains resilient and our prices low. For starters, we need to take a serious look at nuclear energy. Its potential is amazing, but the investment is big and the horizon is long. So we need to get started. In the coming months, I'll be putting together a task force that will make recommendations for how we can move forward. I'll be bringing together experts to look at issues like permitting, which often takes too long. They'll also look at workforce challenges because recruiting nuclear engineers doesn't happen overnight. And they'll be talking with stakeholders around the state to make sure that we have local buy-in. I'll also be proposing a bill and working with legislators to continue to promote an all-of-the-above energy portfolio that ensures the lights are on regardless of whether it's hot, cold, windy, or cloudy. We want to send a message to businesses. Invest in Iowa and you won't regret it. You'll have the workforce, the energy infrastructure, and the low cost of doing business to compete with any company in the world. When I say invest in Iowa, I'm talking about every corner of our state. But I know that there are some communities that face structural barriers. Maybe they don't have a water treatment plant that can handle a large manufacturing facility. Or maybe their natural gas infrastructure isn't big enough to handle a new factory. I want to give all communities, especially rural areas, the chance to compete on a national stage. The federal government provides Iowa a certain amount of tax-exempt bonds every year. I'm working to ensure that going forward, communities can use this low-cost financing for energy and water infrastructure projects. In addition, I'm proposing to modernize our state's energy infrastructure revolving loan program. I've talked to local leaders who have lost out on private investment because of infrastructure concerns. So let's work together this session to solve this barrier to growth and drive prosperity in every part of our state. Of course, we're always focused on expanding Iowa's economy. That's why I led a trade mission to India, the world's largest democracy and a place that holds great potential for Iowa farmers. But not all trade missions require long-distance travel. This spring, I'm headed to a place closer but much different than here. A place where taxes are high, the education system is failing, where crime is off the charts, business regulation is crushing, and their government is running a $3.2 billion deficit. I'm heading to Illinois. I'll be meeting with business leaders to sell them on why they should move their operations across the Mississippi. It's a lot of what I've talked about tonight. Their electricity rates are more than 20% higher than ours. Their labor participation rate is lower, their taxes higher, and their commutes longer. We're number 3 for opportunity, they're 40. We get an A for fiscal responsibility. They got an F. We're neighbors, but our approach to governing couldn't be more stark. My point isn't to rag on Illinois. Well, maybe a little. It's to say that I am so excited and proud to tell our story, the Iowa story, wherever I go, to share that we're a state of low taxes and cost of living, of high character and value, a state where a farmer army might just show up to your house, and that's a good thing. Iowa is a state that provides a quality education for every child and the freedom to raise your child with the values that your parents instilled in you. A state with endless opportunity and timeless charm. I'm excited to tell this story in Chicago, Minneapolis, New York, or any city, big or small, around the country and around the world, because it truly is a great story, and it's one only Iowans could write. I am so proud to call this state home, and I am so honored to be your governor. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless the great state of Iowa. God bless you.
You have been watching and listening to Governor Kim Reynolds' 2025 Condition of the State Address from the Iowa State Capitol in Des Moines. Amy Sinclair, the Senate President, is going to be dismissing this assembly of 150 legislators and this big crowd in the Iowa House of Representatives in just a moment. Some of the biggest bursts of applause during this speech were for two people who have been on a health journey for quite a while. The governor is currently hugging her husband. She mentioned him and how well he's doing with his cancer treatment, and she's now walking out of the House of Representatives. Hello, I'm Kay Henderson here in the House of Representatives, continuing our live coverage. Our guest with the Democratic response is Senator Janice Weiner. She is from Iowa City. She is the Senate Minority Leader. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
And alongside me here is Aaron Murphy. He is the Bureau Chief in Des Moines for the Cedar Rapids Gazette. I'd like to ask you first, Senator Weiner, though, what is your initial impression of the speech?
My initial impression is that as I actually talked about in my opening day speech yesterday, there are a number of areas where we can work together, a number of areas of potential bipartisan cooperation that we can work together for all Iowans. And I was very happy to hear that.
For instance, cancer research?
Cancer research is one of them. I was very gratified to hear the governor being willing to start to discuss Iowa's high and growing cancer rate and the need to get to the root of it. So I would urge all my colleagues in the legislature to allow us to fund cancer research so that we can help all our neighbors.
Another topic the governor mentioned that I know there has been some bipartisan support for is her cell phone in school policies, although I also often hear that the devil is in the details for a policy like that. From what you heard from the governor here tonight, what do you think of her proposal to require schools to keep those mobile devices away during instruction time?
What I heard from the governor tonight, assuming it translates in a way that she describes it into legislation, is something where I believe we can find bipartisan cooperation. Kids need to be focused on instruction, not on their screens during instructional time. A lot of school districts have already implemented policies they work very hard on with parents and children. And so I'm happy to see a policy that would be a floor and allow districts to decide, make their own decisions based on that.
And speaking of cell phones, she mentioned that Iowa should have a quote unquote hands-free law while driving. That again is one of those issues that you hear people support, but you hear some people say, I don't want the government telling me what to do in my motor vehicle. What is your thought?
This is actually an issue that the Senate has passed the last time, I believe 97-3. I don't anticipate any problems with a hands-free law passing the Senate again. I think the issue has been with the House. It's something that law enforcement has long supported, and it will save lives. And to me, that's the key. It really will save lives. And particularly young drivers can be easily distracted. We need everybody to keep their eyes on the road.
I know Democrats have wanted more state level action on childcare. Been hearing that for years. Governor Reynolds made a proposal tonight that sort of ties childcare and 4-year-old preschool together. What did you think about what you heard from the governor tonight?
I think what she's doing is expand. It's a welcome proposal. It's expanding on some programs that already exist. One program that I believe has already been a pilot by the state. There have been some counties, such as my own, that have also piloted something similar. It's a great idea because way too many parents cannot manage to drop a child off for only a few hours of preschool. But by the same token, what I didn't hear was an opportunity to expand preschool, because there are at least a third of Iowa kids who don't yet go to preschool and could really benefit from that.
She also mentioned DOGE, which is something that's happening in the Trump administration to be the Department of Government Efficiency.
Right.
She's creating one at the state level. Will Democrats participate in that?
I mean, we'll have to see what the details are. Obviously, Senate Democrats favor efficiency in government. What we have to make sure is that it's transparent, that Iowans can really understand what's happening, and that it doesn't result in taking away services that are really of value to Iowans.
Governor Reynolds also offered a proposal to attempt to address physician shortages in the state, creating some more residencies, expanding a loan repayment program for people who practice here. Again, I know a topic that's been up before. I hear from the industry on these needs as well. What was your reaction to Governor Reynolds' proposal?
We obviously have a shortage of physicians. I think that Senate Democrats in the past have proposed expanding those programs. Would certainly be in favor of that. Anything that we can do to expand opportunities for people to get medical care close to home and to get more physicians serving in rural communities would be welcome.
The governor has presented the legislature with a budget plan. I'm not sure that you've seen it yet, but she actually is spending more than the government will collect in taxes in the next fiscal year, drawing upon some of the state's reserves funds, the Economic Emergency Fund. Will Democrats support that to maintain spending on places like education? The Board of Regents, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, you are from Iowa City, where the University of Iowa is located.
I mean, obviously, we believe that education, both K-12 and the post-secondary education, are essential for our state, that our Regents universities are some of the crown jewels of our state. We have to take a really close look at the budgeting process. What I really think needs to happen is for the budgeting process to become more transparent again, for us to go back to joint subcommittees with the House and the Senate so that Iowans can really see how their tax dollars are being spent.
As we wrap up here, wanted to give you just time. What's one thing that you didn't hear from the governor that you wish you had?
There are a few things that I'd say quickly that I didn't hear from the governor on. One was our housing shortage and how we end up with more affordable housing. Another was our workforce shortage, how we bring people to the state and retain them. I already mentioned preschool, and the last one was nothing on the opioid settlement funds. It's past time to get them out the door.
Well, that has to be the last word because this is nearing the end of our coverage of the governor's 2025 condition of the state. Thanks for joining us this evening, Senator Weiner.
Thank you so much for having me.
And this is just the beginning of our coverage of the opening week of the 2025 legislative session. Tomorrow morning, that is Wednesday morning, Iowa PBS will provide live streaming coverage of the condition of the judiciary address from Iowa Supreme Court Chief Justice Susan Christensen. That starts at 10 a.m. And then on Thursday morning, also at 10, we will provide live coverage of the condition of the guard address from Major General Stephen Osborne. He is the Adjutant General of the Iowa National Guard. You'll find both of those live streams at iowapbs.org. Then, on this week's Iowa Press, our guest will be Speaker of the Iowa House, Republican Pat Grassley. Iowa Press airs at 7:30 Friday night and again at noon Sunday, or you can watch it online at iowapbs.org. Now, for our entire Iowa PBS crew here at the Iowa State House that brought you tonight's live coverage, thanks for watching. Watch it online anytime at iowapbs.org. Thanks for watching.
Funding for this program is provided by Friends,